Thank you, Alyssa.
Jen,
That's exactly how I wanted to start out. Exactly how I wanted to start out. Just reminded that I'm salty.
All right. Hey, everybody. We're going to get started. My name is Blake Comerdiner.
Over there.
And I...
next to Kira?
You can sit or stand as you please, actually.
I'm going to walk around and see if it makes it better. Am I still little? I don't care anymore.
You are still little.
There's only 2 seats.
I don't think there's
I think there's only 2 seats. No, there's only 2 seats. It's just
okay. I'll stand.
Anyway.
Well, thank y'all all so much for coming.
But I'll stand.
and this is the final panel for South by Southwest Online XR. Thank y'all so much. I'm super, super excited. We have the cast and crew of Finding Pandora X, which is an amazing live theatrical production, live in VR chat that we showcase as part of the Virtual Cinema Spotlight today. I'm going to go ahead right now and give it over to our moderator, Joanna Popper from HP, who is one of the executive producers on this project. Take it away, Joanna.
Thanks, Blake, and thank you to South by Southwest for hosting us this year. We're so happy to be here live in Austin in this virtual Austin VR chat. I'm going to introduce the panel. We have Kira Benzig, who is the director of Finding Pandora X. We have Melissa Landry, and then we have Jonathan David Martin, who is an actor, and Jen Harris, who is another actor. Jen, you're kind of on the ground a little bit. I'm sure people can see you. There you are. Jen's the salt shaker. And then we have the tech producer, Mark Sternberg. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Really excited for this panel. So first, let's start off by talking to Kira about the origin of this production. What's the background, and how did this production come together?
Sure. So Alyssa, Mark, and I, and Laura Bougre are all part of AA Studios. And when we got back from Venice in 2019, we had just done a live VR theater production there called Love Seat, where our actors performed simultaneously for a live physical audience as well as a virtual audience of avatars. And at the time, the virtual audiences were on the smaller side. We didn't have a great full room just yet, but we felt we had this idea of, build the theater and they will come. So we built this virtual theater and we were performing in this hybrid way. We wanted to continue that format, and we said, what do we really want to dedicate our time to? And we really wanted to make sure that there was a female protagonist at the center of the story. So Alyssa and I centered on the idea of Pandora, and I see she's floating right now. Alyssa's our narrative director and our lead writer on this production. So I'm sure she'll have more to add eventually when she comes back to us. Alyssa, do you want to talk a little bit about the origin and how we centered on the myth of Pandora, the story? And maybe we just lost your audio. I see you pantomiming. But okay, so I'm gonna continue here while we all navigate. Oh, we've got you.
She's here.
Audio lag. Okay, great.
No,
do you want to add to the origin?
Sorry, I'm having a big audio lag today. Yes,
no worries.
Yes.
We hear you, though. We hear you. We're talking about the origin.
Yes, well, Kira and I were discussing, I think it was Mark and Laura who first had the idea of doing something with Greek mythology, and then Kira and I were looking for a strong female figure, and we just landed on Pandora because there was so much about her myth that we loved, including the fact that she has been maligned for many, 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 many centuries, since actually in the oral tradition she is a goddess of who accompanies lost souls into the afterlife. And we just thought there was so much that we were going to be able to do with this idea of hope, being lost, being in boxes, and having this wonderful, strong female figure. And originally, everything was centered around Pandora, and then COVID hit. And we realized that we could not tell the original story that we wanted to tell. And that was how this whole thing morphed into Finding Pandora X, where we're all searching for her, searching for hope, searching for what was lost from Mount Olympus and from the mortal realm.
Exactly. And I can just add one other thing, Joanna, that...
Oh, please.
Just about the we have a branching story structure. There are some things that we were really interested in playing with. Mark and Laura have a big fondness for escape rooms, so we've embedded these escape rooms into the middle of the show, and the audience branches onto these two different quests.
That's what I was going to say. I'd love to see from the audience, how many of you have had a chance to see Finding Pandora X? Okay, so a lot of the audience has not had a chance to see it. So given that, will you share a little bit more of the back of the story and what happens when you're in the story? But no spoilers, of course.
No spoilers. Yes, we have a cast of 5 actors. Iris, Hermes, who's played by Jen Harris. Zeus, played by Jonathan David Martin. Hera by Pamela Winslow Kashani. And Iris, played by Hilary Walker. And Corey, played by Deirdre Lyons. And this cast, it's a pretty big cast, take you on a pretty wild adventure, and the audience is quite interactive. Alyssa, do you want to add a little bit on the story?
Well, when our story starts, Mount Olympus, all of the gods have disappeared down to just 2, and that's Zeus and Hera. And the reason that they've disappeared is because hope has disappeared from Mount Olympus. And generation after generation, this box of hope has been passed down from Pandora to Pandora. And Zeus and Hera want to get it back. And at the start of our show, the Greek chorus has been called to help the Greek chorus leader to aid and facilitate that search by Zeus and Hera. And so our audience members all play the part of the Greek chorus, and they are going to be incredibly important to moving through the story. They will interact with it, and they will have a pivotal role in helping Zeus and Hera. And so in a way, I know that this panel is about performing in VR, and in a way, all of our audience members then also become performers. So our actors have scripted lines, but our audience members also have scripted lines, and then very interactive moments that are completely improvised as they move and go through this quest to help Zeus and Hera.
Thank you. It's so true that it's such an interesting thing, and VR is really a perfect place to create that level of improv, because we're at such an early stage in the technology that things often don't go as planned. And so having that level of scripting, but combined with playing off the audience and giving the audience space to take the story in different directions it makes a lot of sense in where we are in the medium right now. So let's turn over to Jen and Jonathan and talk about performing in VR. So as actors, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your background and your training as actors, and what you were able to take from your past in other acting in other mediums into acting in VR. And what did you have to learn that was new and different and specific to acting in VR? Let's start with Jen, salt shaker here.
I'm a salt shaker? Like, I'm showing in the avatar. I'm going to use my powers. I'm going to use my powers.
You're little and down on the ground.
Wait, I have a question. I have a question for everyone. Aren't we all these blue? Stop. Aren't we all these blue diamonds right now, or no?
No.
No.
You're a
Oh, the mirror's not loading.
Oh, man, I see everyone is loading, and every single person is a blue diamond to me.
Well,
you were beautiful reality in a way.
Each and every one of us are a rare blue diamond.
Wow!
That is our life.
You all. Well, that's funny because number one, Mark. Am I gonna get in trouble? I'm fine, right? Just because everyone's loading.
You're fine. Let's just go with it.
Well, the thing was I came up the elevator, and I was like, oh, we're doing blue diamonds. Okay, like I guess we're just all gonna be uniform up here. I feel so gypped right now because I get to see no one but these loading blue
you
diamonds.
Can change and not be a salt shaker if you choose. But
No,
for the moment, you're salty.
Well,
so go
listen,
with it. Just be salty.
That
makes
a lot more sense than Alyssa's comment earlier. Just really kind of like clicked in right now when she called me salty. I love, which is super apropos. And she can't respond because she's on a sound lag, but I know she's hearing me. This is hilarious. I'm glad that I'm a salt shaker, and I'm glad that I see you all as blue diamonds. And I'm getting candy, and I'm getting laughter, and that's all I ever ask for in life anyway.
Well,
so,
when you mix
anyway.
Salt and sugar, sometimes it's
Oh,
good,
my
right?
God. Okay, moving right along to the actual topic. I went to school. Mark, I've never made you laugh this hard. I'm so happy. Someone's smoking before they get in VR. Okay. I studied acting at Boston University in Lambda in London. I've been in New York for the past 21 years, most doing theater, film, and television as an actor. The past about 6 years, I started writing and producing and directing, making my own work. I met Kira at the Tribeca Film Festival. I had a web series there called New York is Dead, and Kira and I literally just met on the street, and we're like, hey, what do you do? What do you do? And she then asked me to join Love Seat in Venice, and Johnny and I got to go to Venice for a couple weeks, and that was the greatest experience ever. But Kira was actually my into VR. I met her at the festival, and I said, what do you do? And she's like, oh, I'm in VR. And I said, what? What's that? I didn't even know that the film festival that I was in had VR. So I was very, very new and green to it a couple years ago. And Kira and the team totally taught me everything and took me through from up until this day, apparently. And so I come as a performer, but also a creator and a producer and writer and newly director. And the question was, what have I learned? I want to get specific. What did you say about it, Joanna?
The question was, what from your act, what your tricks that you had as an actor you were able to bring into this production in VR, and or the one at Love Seat 2 years ago now.
Great.
And then what did you have to learn or approach in a completely different way acting in virtual reality?
Great. I think Johnny and I have talked about this too. I think the number one thing for me is improv is very useful. Because the second point, the thing that I've had to learn is the technical aspects and incorporating them along with acting out a scene with a scene partner and also an audience. The technical elements are something that, and also like troubleshooting in a very different way, troubleshooting on stage as opposed to troubleshooting in an interactive space is something that is the biggest challenge for me. But we talked about it the other day in a clubhouse that it's sort of like VR is like acting with really technical props and doing scenes with, being able to fly, being able to sit, all these different things that we get to do. We get to teleport. We get to interact with the audience in sort of in a way that, isn't unlike a lot of live theater that's collaborative and downtown and interactive, Sleep No More, a bunch of other type of stuff that I've done downtown in the years, but there is so the technical aspect is something that incorporating that, and then also troubleshooting in a totally different way has been sort of the most challenging or the newest thing. But acting-wise, theater-wise, it's really shockingly similar. The audience, there's an interactiveness with the audience along with a kind of autonomy that you don't get to do live where, a person still has their sense of space and their sense of self and agency, even if, I throw candy at their face or like fly in the air. I mean, maybe this is, throwing like emojis is maybe like the old school, like Shakespearean theater, right, where they would go and at the old Globe in London, like they used to throw like bananas and fruit and stuff at the actors when they were bad. So maybe, right, when like the performers were bad, they'd throw fruit. Now we throw candy and like skulls and like heart emojis. But I find, yes, or yes, thank you, or more appropriately, a tomato. Thank you, exactly. Throw all the tomatoes at me. I love it. So I actually find it quite similar and a little and oddly collaborative in a way that I'm quite shocked at. And getting to teach what I do in this show specifically is sort of help on board the players before they join Zeus in Mount Olympus, and getting to interact with them and ask what device they're on and help them, sort through a couple of settings and get onboarded for us is a really fun collaborative process when someone who knows less than me or more than me and we're still working together to actually bring them into a sense of character and have their agency when they enter the world. So it's not super unlike it because I still do also receive the immediate kind of gratification of entertainment, like in a big scale, as like in like the interaction,
which is different than
the word entertainment.
Movie.
Yeah, exactly. It still does have that sense of entertainment, which I love. So yeah, thanks.
Great.
Johnny.
Thank you, Salty Jen.
Thank you. Yes, now I want you always to be a salt shaker. It's making my day. Thank you, Jen.
All right, Jonathan.
Man.
Similar question. Your background and what you brought from your background into this production, and what did you have to learn newly or change the way you thought of?
Yeah. So my background is also as a classically trained performer. I went to NYU's graduate acting program. But for my entire career, similar to Jen, I've also been a content creator. So I run my own production company based in New York and LA called Smoke and Mirrors Collaborative. And I think actually, like a lot of us here, wear multiple hats and really am happiest when I'm doing lots of different roles. And I think one of the things that really attracted me and continues to attract me about working in XR and VR is that it's really a place for people who are multi-hyphenates, artists, creators, technologists. And I think all of those skills and interests in lots of different areas really come in handy for all of us in all of our different roles. And I know it certainly has for myself as a performer, specifically really talking to what Jen was kind of talking about on we're our own troubleshooters. We're our own tech team, especially as we're performing remotely at home. I had some interesting, fun, new technical challenges trying to get into VR chat this morning and had to go through different troubleshooting protocols that I've learned how to do over the last couple of years. So along with being a performer on stage, film and television, I've also worked as a puppeteer in the Broadway production of War Horses in the original Broadway cast, and I've worked as a dancer and physical performer. And I think coming into the VR space, when I first came in, my first production was with Kieran and Jen and Mark and Laura on Love Seat, that having a background not only as an actor, but also as a puppeteer and a dancer was really, really helpful to feel like I could get acquainted in a virtual space and to feel embodied in this avatar, which essentially is a virtual puppet and has certain ways that it expresses itself, certain affordances, and you have to figure out how to bring this avatar to life, because without your bringing yourself into it, avatars are just dead, right? When we see people, when they're just leaving the world or when something's glitching, those avatars, you realize there's no life inherent to them, that we're really bringing life to them in the same way that you do with puppetry. And that mentality for me has been really helpful in terms of finding the widest range of expression as a performer through whatever avatar that I'm playing. And we get something different when you're portraying a salt shaker than when you have something that's sort of more identifiably human.
Right on.
Yeah, figuring out that vocabulary and how you then can communicate and listen in a virtual space is something that's both new, but you can kind of borrow those tricks from being a put your dancer and actor into this space. And but I think really like how you listen to an audience is very different for me in a virtual space than in than live on stage. The kind of ways that you pick up physical cues and verbal cues, it's a different vocabulary, but it's still there. So it's fascinating that the more that we do that, the more I'm able to tune into subtle things about what's going on with somebody. The fact that I can, understand if somebody's having trouble by the fact that it looks like they're looking at their menu, or where their attention isn't where it should be, and it seems like they're distracted, or being able to tell somebody's got audio issues just by the way that they're physically carrying themselves. So it's been fascinating to me that that you can actually start to read all of those things, even with some of the limitations that there are just being in VR at the moment. And I think that's actually really great. I think it's really exciting to be picking up all of those things.
Yeah. I have a question to go along with that, without giving spoilers. You as Zeus have different versions of yourself. You're small, you're big, you're humongous. You appear in different ways. What is that like? Like, the changing of the avatar, and what is, does each version of Zeus bring sort of some sort of difference in the way that you act in that moment?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. And I think it happens on two different levels. One, and this is very much like performing, in a live space as yourself, is that as a performer, I feel differently if I'm in a different costume, even if I'm playing the same character. And I think we all kind of feel that way, right? We feel different when we're in our pajamas versus when we're in, dress clothes going to a cocktail party or something like that. And so it does, like, even having that as a virtual thing, like I find myself carrying myself a little bit differently. And certainly when you're talking about scale, and that's really a fun thing to play in VR in general, but specifically playing a character who changes scale, that when Zeus gets really large, like, I understand that I take up space. And so, I'm thinking about how my movements want to have that sense of size and weight that's different than if we're playing something that's more of a normal human-sized character that's going to have a different sense of size and weight. Because if you don't do that, then the puppet that's really large, the character that's really large can kind of lose it's not as believable if the gestures feel a little too light. So having just more of a sense of weight is kind of the best way I can put it. Helps us perceive, oh yeah, that character's got size. It's huge. It's massive, and it's powerful. And those are all things that I want to embody and then communicate to an audience. And I think also there's an amount of work that I don't have to do as a performer that you just read, right? You read Jen's personality differently because she's a salt shaker. You read my personality differently because of the avatar that I'm in. And so if I was to change that avatar, even if it, like, let's say from the neck up it's looking similar, but, if I'm suddenly in a polka dot striped outfit, you're going to get something different from that character without me really having to do anything. So in that way, it's that wonderful conversation between myself as a performer and the design elements. In this case, our wonderful avatar designer, Rhea, what she's created. And that's a whole kind of thing we could talk about too, about how we're constantly having a really rich conversation between the kinds of things that Mark and the other design team have created in the environment, and how we get to play with it really actively, and so does the audience.
Are you muted?
Talk about, Mark, as your role within the storytelling, with the what are some of the storytelling challenges and technical challenges that you brought to the story, and then worked through, and what were some of the key learnings and things that you built in the story and along the way in the journey?
Yeah, so the interactivity that's built into the story,
you're kind of faded
and
into
just
the sofa too, so maybe you should move forward a little bit.
yeah, I'm trying to move forward. It just kind of doesn't happen. Um, but I'll try. I don't know.
You're melded into the couch a little.
Yeah,
There,
yeah, really. It's just where the seat is located.
okay.
Mark knows.
But anyway, yeah, actually, first off, I want to give a shout out to the Essential, who's wearing our avatar from the show, which is really cool. It's a nice little giveaway that people that see the show can sort of take with them afterwards. But anyway, yeah, so it's an interesting thing. Sorry, somebody. Oh, Johnny, would you mind muting? I'm getting a feedback. Thanks. So it's an interesting thing. With the interactivity, we worked really closely, especially early on with Alyssa and Kira. You know, they were working on the story. They gave us, the script. We went over it and sort of said, like, where are the moments where we can add interactivity that drives the story forward? So so especially early on, it was a very strong interplay of like, okay, so they have these ideas of elements of the story that, how do we make them here in VR chat? How do we make, because our experience is in VR chat, by the way, and it's like its own unique platform in terms of programming and everything else. So it's like, well, how do we make things that not only that that work in here, and that are easy for new users to accomplish too, because that's the big thing, is we have a wide audience, right? We have people that are putting on their headsets for the very first time, but we're also having experienced gamers in there and sort of giving them that interactivity that's meaningful to drive the story forward. But not only that, it's just a matter of like, also pushing the limits, right? Showing people stuff that they didn't think was possible, even here in VR chat. Like, we definitely have to do stuff that's, beyond what you would see in traditional theater, but even beyond that, see stuff in here that like is still breaking expectations, even for people that are familiar with VR. And it's a really strong interplay, and it was a lot of back and forth of like, here's how we pull off this, or maybe we'll negotiate and say like, well, they had a great idea for something, a puzzle or element of the story that's like this, and we're like, well, here's how we pull off something similar. And so it definitely comes down to, finding the balance, finding the moments of interactivity that are rewarding for everyone that comes as an audience member. And then after that, one of the biggest technical challenges that we spend a lot of time on is optimizing these worlds, making them look as great as possible. And I have to say, South by has done a fantastic job themselves optimizing these worlds, because they perform beautifully not only on PC VR, but when you do it for Quest, which is basically a mobile phone processor, the Oculus Quest. But again, that's one of the most popular headsets, so we want to cater to that audience. We had to find a lot of ways to make a beautiful environment and functionality for people that are on, a less powerful headset than the people that are, with PC VR headsets.
Great, thanks, Mark. There's some people in the audience are talking. We can hear you. Just be aware that if you're in the audience, it would be great if you could mute if you have background noise. Thank you. Well, Mark, yeah, you all did such an amazing job. The worlds are beautiful. The characters the avatars are beautiful, and the experience of going through all the different branching narratives is just so compelling. So great job. And on that, I want to talk about the avatars a little more. So we don't have Rhea up here on stage with us, but Kira as director and the whole team, working closely with Rhea around the look and feel. What was the creative direction that you gave, and what was the inspiration for the look and feel of the different avatars?
Our actors are embodying these, as Jonathan is talking about, and, the kind of puppeteering capabilities. So we want to make sure that we're giving them something that feels godly and something that feels really fun to play with. And what Ray and I talked a lot about was doing a kind of high fashion, modern twist on the gods, because of course, Alyssa and I are updating the narrative. We're taking Pandora's narrative and we're throwing our own spin on it. And it only felt like that could best be reflected in that of the avatars as well. So Ray and I looked at a lot of really fun kind of runway fashion styles. And so the character of Hermes that Jen plays is this really kind of awesome sort of militaristic edge to her. She's got wings that are attached to her shoulders and wings on her boots. And Jonathan, who gets to play Zeus, his character is actually designed by Polygonal Mind, but then Raya updated that. We talked a lot about also just kind of the diversity that we could bring in the avatars, and that a god doesn't have to be a normal human color. A god could be any color. So we've painted all the gods the colors of the rainbows, and there are many different colors. So Zeus is blue. Hermes is also a version of blue. And all of our other gods take on these really kind of supernatural colors and neon elements piped throughout them. So it was really a wonderful process designing with Raya and getting her artistic vision and voice into these characters, especially since she also is designing so many of these female characters, and I thought that was important to have a female perspective on them.
Great. Yeah, they're really beautiful. And actually, she designed this one that I'm appearing in today as well. So excited about that. My new look. So thinking about the future and thinking about what are some grounds or goals that you have as you continue to bring this productions and other productions into the future. What are new things you want to play with, whether it's on the writing side in VR or the performing side or the technical side? What are some future goals for the team?
Sure. I can pipe in on one technical thing, and then I'll pass it to Mark a little bit more on the technical goals that we have. Definitely we were doing full body tracking when we were in Venice with Love Seat, and that's something I think that we all have on our minds that we'd like to get back to. We had dedicated technicians for each actor when we performed in Venice, and now all the actors are their own technicians. They're troubleshooting, and they've become their own technologists and running from home, which is also, I think, incredibly powerful that any actor could do this, and our actors have become so savvy at this. They could all train anyone that would be any new actor that would be interested in getting into this field. And for us on the writing side, we're really interested in layering in other types of audiences. We still want to keep it interactive for them, but as we explore the possibilities of taking not only our VR story, which is highly immersive and interactive and intimate in ways, we are also exploring the possibility of making a more web-based version of that, and still where we can give the audience enough agency so that they still feel like they are contributing to the story and making meaningful choices. I think those are values that Alyssa and I have. So Alyssa, do you want to add to where we want to take it in the future narratively? And then Mark, I can pass back to you on technical goals. I know Alyssa's got a little lag.
She's a lag.
Sure. Yes, I do. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
Well, as we move forward, of course, we're still on the search for Pandora. So what we're hoping for is that this story will continue, the audience will come with us, and it will be a standalone. So whether or not people have done Finding Pandora X or not, it won't matter. We'll still be moving out, exploring new ways of interaction, new ways of immersing our audiences in the story. I know that one of the things that Kira has been hoping to do for a very long time is to create a bridge between a live audience and a virtual audience, as she started to do with Love Seat. So I think that's something also that we're going to be thinking about, is how can we engage all these different audiences so that it's not confined just to people in a headset, but we can be connecting people. I think that's a very, very important part of what Double I Studios wants to do, is to create connections between people, both in the virtual world and in real life, and get them to interact with our story all together at the same time. So it's a big challenge, but it's one that we're very excited to continue exploring.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and on the interaction side, one of the things that we're looking at doing is we love getting as many people through as we can, but also we have to limit the size so that everyone has a meaningful experience. So with that trade-off, one of the things that we're finding is we're looking at new ways to sort of give meaningful experiences to people in off hours and the times when our show isn't actively running with actors, and find ways that that can be more exciting. Like, for example, to this time, we've also been doing tours of Mount Olympus, our main stage world, and giving people, a walkthrough of sort of the background of it and sort of how certain things happen and stuff like that. But we're looking at different ways and exploring other ways to make it more meaningful, beyond just during the live audience time, and give people something that they can come back to even when we're not doing shows actively. But yeah, in terms of other interactivity, it's we're always looking for new and amazing things that will surprise the audience and wow the audience. And it's hard to do it without, when we start to build our new script, and we're working on that script now, but that will dictate what the interactivity will be. And we'll just find ways to sort of push it to the next level, because even this show, we've had several iterations, and we keep pushing it further and further and further, and come up with new ideas on the fly that we incorporate. So I'm sure we'll continue to do that with the next production.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there's so many really important threads from what we're talking about. We have messages of hope, messages of inclusion. We have breaking new grounds in terms of how to have that deeper interaction with
私そろそ
audiences.
ろ寝ようかなと思って。
And breaking through the
はい、わかりまし
technology.
た。ま
We
た
have
後で。お疲れ様でした。
お
gifts
疲れ
that
さん
you
も
give
ま
to
た
the
まちえ
audience
さんもじ
members
ゃあ
so
明
that
日
each
の
one
朝
gets their own
また
avatar.
また
すい
We
ま
have
せん、なんか
actors
聞こえ
who
るか
are
ら、なんか
who are
静かしてお願いします。
and
OK
training new actors, and so growing the overall stable and pool of actors. So it's just such an impressive feat that you all have pulled off with this production. So just really impressed and acknowledged, and as myself coming in as executive producer, and on behalf of AT, that we've been working with you all on the
9
technology
時半か
side,
ら
on
9時半から
on
10時だ
the
から
computers
15
that are
分前
running
に
and the headsets that are running
一
the production. Just
回
really happy and
なんか
honored that we're able to
誰
work
に
with
ジョイン
such
したらいいかわ
an
かん
imaginative
ない
and
からドッグ
innovative
さ
and
んのところ
creative
で
group
みんな
that
で
is
一回
breaking so
集
much
合
new
して
ground. So
うん
thank
それ
you
で
for on behalf of
ま
the
だ
audiences
ね
and
だ
on
か
behalf
ら
of our
そうね
team
そ
as
の前に
well.
ちょっと
Thank you.
もうちょっと前には起
So
き
I'd
て
like
る
to
ん
open it up
で
for some
うん
questions.
あ
If you
何
have
時
a question, just raise your
But be
hand,
quiet
come off mute,
OK
and ask a question.
OK、そういう。
ね OK
うん。
どうぞ
ちょっと
なんでだからちょっとこっち側に行きます
And while people are getting ready, I want to ask a question to the actors on behalf of the audience while they're kind of coming off mute. I see people dancing. That's nice. Thank you. How, as if there are actors in the audience who are thinking about would love to perform in something like this, what would you advise them as how to get started?
Johnny?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the best way to get started is the same way that you would approach it, getting into acting in general, which is, check out a lot of content, see a lot of things, see what you gravitate towards, see what's already out there, and then find as many opportunities as you can to just start exploring. And I think this kind of touches on a sort of a larger issue for us in VR, which is how do we get more people into a headset? How do we make the hardware part of it more accessible? And Joanna's
we're having
been
a
doing
quick
such a wonderful
cheeky
job
look.
with that at AT, certainly with this show.
Yeah,
and
this
other
is
places.
probably not the
I
space that
getting
you
the word
saw,
out so that people understand that
but
this is here.
it's still
Yeah, I
interesting
saw-
to see like a gallery in
there's a lot of,
VR.
like, helping
Mhm.
actors and others just understand what it is,
In fact,
where it is,
these
and how they can engage
films
with it.
are actually
And
360
then I think it's,
experiences
gonna be
that you
about,
can click
for
on and it'll
performers
take
getting
you
in a
to
headset and
a
starting
cinema
to play
space. Like
around
so,
and
click
just
on this one
starting
for
to
example.
explore. And I
Can you go to
think
the second
VR is
floor
a wonderful place for
have those
actors
people
to
mute?
think about how they would create their own content. All of us, most of the performers in the show were also been creating our own content. And I think that's a really powerful opportunity for performers, because it's a real
一回
issue
リス
for
ポンスよ
performers
うかな、
at
みんな。
large in order to, like, how do you stay fulfilled and able to just have a sustainable lifestyle as a performer in the industry today. And a lot of it really comes down to whether you can also be creating your own content. So I think just kind of getting in a headset, jumping and playing around, and social spaces like this are a great place to start kind of mucking about and seeing
It
how
disappears around
people
me.
move, how
It's
the
crazy.
avatars respond, what's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's
what's
cool, isn't
Whoa.
it? Yeah,
So that's why I would say to start.
Yeah, I would piggyback. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
And then like
Yeah,
the
okay.
main
I would
social floor,
piggyback
we can
on
have a
that,
quick peek if you like. Is on the
Johnny,
top.
when you say you're
Oh,
talking
sure.
about creating,
What would you call this
becoming a
art
content
design
creator.
called?
First of all, like also
Or what
approaching
is
like
this
you
usually
would
called?
as an actor in the
Yeah,
world of
it's
theater,
interesting.
film,
It's kinda
television.
like geometric.
You again, see a lot, go out there, like go out, do a lot of interactive, see who the players are out there. I mean, this still is for for all intents and purposes, a small space compared to like film, TV, and theater. Like you can get in. I would say go and immerse yourself in as many projects as you can and find out who the creators are and reach out to them just like you would in any other aspect in the industry. Reach out to the creators that you like and that you the work that you resonate with the most, and reach out to them and say, hey, I like your work. Compliment them. If you have a specific question for them, not I want to pick your brain, not that whole thing, just a specific question for the creators. One specific question that you want answered, not how can I be an actor in your stuff. Have something very specific, clean and clear. Reach out to them, compliment them, and thank them for their time. And that's that. And also, what Johnny was saying about being a content creator or being a creator in some way, not just an actor. I'm not downplaying the role. I'm just saying what it also does is that, I can't speak for the creators, for Kira or Mark, but it's very useful, especially in this land, that you have some sense of agency over taking over when a problem occurs. You have produced something, you have written something, you have been in a group with other people. So you do come from sort of a mindset or a place of like collaboration, because there's no way, unless Johnny, I don't know, unless you think I'm wrong, but I'm sure you'll agree with me.
I think you're totally right.
There's no way that I found out with acting in VR. There is no way you can go in just thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna do my vocal warm up and go in and like do my scene, and then no. Like, you need to be able to do that and understand there are 80,000 moving elements, and then something's going to go wrong and someone's going to be in your ear telling you something. So to have a sort of agency of making your own work, of being a self-starter in whatever form that is. You don't have to go create a web series about it, but some form of being a self-starter and having a sense of agency inside your art and craft, or in art and craft as a whole, and a curiosity is really important. Because when we got to Venice, I remember we had tech. We had like one day of tech or something. I might be getting this wrong. I'm sure I'm exaggerating, but maybe not. I think we had like one day of tech. And
2 days of tech.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember nothing. I remember nothing. It was hot, and the bathrooms were porta potties, and I was like, "Let's do this." But I do remember thinking like, "Oh, the technical stuff is. Obviously it's tech, but we'll run it when we run it. When there's audience, it's just not going to happen. Like, this is the most important part of it, and it's not me getting like the beats in my scene correct. Like, there just has to be, and I'm not saying that in the sense that they don't create a space that is free for us to create as actors. Not at all. I feel completely like I'm being given agency and the ability to do my scene and do my work as an actor. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that it's different from live theater in that way, that you must have a sense of curiosity and of collaboration, because there's just no way that it'll operate if you don't. You need to be able to help out your fellow teammates. I'd say that.
Right.
And Jen, just also say, like, please feel free to reach out to us as well. Like, we're in this space because we're really excited about how rich the conversation is. So if you want to chat with us more, like, please do.
Yeah. And I see other teammates. I see Deirdre in the audience. I see Lara in the audience.
I see Lara. I see Deidre.
Yeah, and just to, on the tech side, I just wanted to say it is amazing. Like, it's so great that we have not only talented actors, but they're also very intelligent. So they've learned so fast all of the technology involved, and it makes me on the tech side as one of the key people, and Chris and Vaughn, two other members of our team who have to respond to tech issues. It makes it so much easier for us, because it makes it so much easier for us to communicate and be like, oh, we can diagnose the issue. We know what's going on, because at least for this last production, we haven't seen each other in person in at least 6 months, if not more, because of the pandemic. But it's still worked out, and it's still we've been pulling it off every day remotely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. All right. And are there any questions in the audience? We'll be around for a minute or two if you want to ask a question off stage as well. But if there
Is there a
has...
schedule? Is there a schedule for upcoming performances?
Not yet.
Sure.
We just finished our last performance for South by Southwest, but we are talking about opening just last night, exactly, just yesterday, in our last backstage tour that was part of the festival. And we had a really wonderful international crowd. It's been so exciting, and I see some of your familiar faces and some of you wearing their Greek chorus avatars that you got from seeing the show or from the backstage tour. So we're talking about doing some backstage tours perhaps in April, and we're trying to think about how we might be able to do perhaps like a limited engagement run of the show. So definitely take a look at our website, doubleI.co, and hopefully we can have you guys back at some point in the future.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So thank you to South by. Thank you, Blake. Thank you, VR Room, Louis, Maud, and the rest of the team, and to VR Chat as well, who hosted our show and are hosting this great panel. And thank you all to the audience who have, such great audiences that have been in and around this production, this whole run, and are in the audience here today. And definitely reach out. Kira, please repeat the name of the website, just so people get it, and spell it out so people know.
Sure. Our studio is called Double I Studios, and it's double I, all one word, DOUBLEEYE.co, and that's where you can find our work and the next virtual theater production we'll be doing, and the continuation of this as we explore trying to bring it to more people. It's been a real honor for us to have our North American premiere here. So again, thank you to Blake and Martha and everyone on the South by team, and Janet. Just thank you so much for having us. It's been a real honor to be able to share our physical and virtual presence and gather as a community again and share these experiences together.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm Joanna Popper from HP, and excited to be on stage with the cast and crew from Finding Pandora X. And thank you, South by Southwest. And if anyone wants to hang around and ask us a question after, we'll be here for a few minutes.